This video will talk about how to solve polynomial equations. Remember, an equation's got to have an equal sign. And remember that when we talk about polynomials, as opposed to linear or quadratics, we're now talking about things with higher powers of x greater than 2, such as x cubed in this case. And I've written out here our general rules. Our first step should always be to get it equal to 0. Okay, so if I have to manipulate it, I want to always get it equal to 0. So for example, in this case, I want to get rid of the 10x squared on this side. So I'm going to subtract 10x squared both sides, and I get 3x cubed plus, or minus 10x squared, so I can put them in descending order, plus 3x equals 0. And that's what I mean by get it equal to 0. Next, we want to factor anything we can out, and by that I mean look at our polynomial at this point and see, is there anything I can pull out that'll make our lives easier? In other words, in this case, I've got an x cubed, an x squared, and an x, so I can go ahead and just factor out an x. That's going to give me 3x squared minus 10x plus 3. Alright. Now, if I can't really factor anything out in 2 and get it down to a quadratic, then I'm going to want to graph it to determine at least one of the zeros. I need to use a graph to determine at least one, sometimes more. I'm then going to use our division of polynomials to reduce and keep reducing our polynomial till I end up with a quadratic. And once I end up with that quadratic, I can then solve this pretty easily. In this case, you can see when I factored out the x, I ended up with a quadratic. So now what am I going to do? Alright, so I've ended up with x, 3x squared minus 10x plus 3, and all of that's equal to 0. Now, whenever I factor out an x, just a plain old x, this implies that one of my solutions is x equals 0. Okay? So let's think about that. What this means is this is a x value that makes this a true mathematical statement. Sure enough, if I plug in x equals 0, I get 0 plus 0, and that is equal to 0. So that is a solution to my polynomial equation. Now, are there any others? Yes, because now I can solve this quadratic to determine if there are any others. How am I going to do that? Go back to our buddy, the quadratic formula. Minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? And from there, I can just plug in. I just get 10 plus or minus the square root b squared, which is going to be 100, minus 4 ac, okay, all divided by 2a, which in this case is 6. I end up with 10 plus or minus the square root of, this is going to be 100 minus 36, or 64, all over 6. I end up with 10 plus or minus 8 over 6. 10 plus 8 gives me 18 over 6 is 3. And 10 minus 8 gives me 2 over 6, or a third. So my three solutions to this polynomial is x equals 0, x equals 3, alright, 3, and x equals a third. If I were to use Excel or some other formula or some other method to graph this, I would see that the graph of this would cross the x-axis at x equals 0, x equals 3, and x equals a third. We'll do some more examples.